Hey everybody, what's going on? Today we're going to be talking about the remake of a Charles Bronson classic. Bruce Willis stars in Death Wish. After his wife is killed and his daughter left in a coma after a home invasion, the police hit a dead end in the case, so a surgeon takes the law into his own hands. You know, I actually had some hopes for this movie. At least I wanted to. I have to admit that other than knowing that Joe Carnahan wrote the screenplay Eli Roth was directing and Bruce Willis was starring in it, I didn't know much else about this remake going in. Now, I've seen the original 1974 movie, but it's been a long time. While I haven't read the book the original movie is based on, I did look into it. I was hoping that this version of Death Wish would be more of an adaptation of the book and not a straight remake of the original movie. My hopes were dashed pretty quickly. Now, I'm not saying that this was a terrible movie, but it could have been so much more even as an adaptation of the first film. It did make some changes from the 1974 film, some simple and some pretty big. First, instead of starting in New York and ending in Chicago, the movie starts in Chicago and ends in New York. The plot of the movie uses the recent real-life violent struggle in Chicago as the backdrop for its story as a whole. Paul Kersey, sorry for this one it's Dr. Paul Kersey, is a surgeon in this version and not an architect. This connects him to the city's violence, which also leads to some plot developments later in the movie. A lot of what happens to Kersey's family is pretty much the same, except that there is no sexual assault on his daughter. Okay, so let's talk about what this movie got right and what it got wrong. I thought this movie did a lot of things right. I liked that, for the most part, it didn't take a definitive stand on if what Kersey was doing was right or wrong. Throughout the movie, we hear two mostly well-known sides speaking out for the public. On the against side, Sway, the host of the Wake Up show, speaks out against Kersey. On the other side, and people from Chicago will recognize the voice of the opposition, Mancow, host of the Mancow Morning Show, says that what Kersey is doing is the right thing. With these two programs being real morning radio shows, it adds a little bit of realism to the movie. Another thing that worked for me was Kersey's inexperience with firearms. When he gets his first gun, which he steals from a gang member who is a gunshot victim at his hospital, he has some trouble knowing how to use it. This leads to him injuring his hand, which is something that comes back to haunt him later in the movie. While the movie does montage it up after a bit, making him a bit better at using guns, the way it started worked for me. Now, to what didn't work. First, and this is really no surprise, the movie is pretty by the numbers. I figured this would be the case going in, but a few twists and turns probably wouldn't have hurt. The other thing that bothered me was the overall character of Kersey. There were times where the character did work, which were the times he was the broken man, dealing with the loss of his wife and his daughter barely clinging to life. Then there were the times when the character would get silly, such as when he would drop a one-liner before killing a bad guy, though I kind of love this one.
Who are you? Your last customer.
When he was cracking jokes with his psychiatrist or stealing the pose from the 1974 movie to end his own. I think the character should have just stuck to the broken state of mind. The silliness hurt the effectiveness of what did work in the movie. Look, for a movie that had all of the development hell that this one did, it's okay, but it's not great. Sly Stallone was first attached to star and direct this remake back in 2006. In 2012, it was reported that Joe Carnahan would be writing and directing the movie, but while they still used his screenplay, he left the project in 2013 over creative differences. They went through many other directors before settling on Eli Roth. As for actors, many names have been, or at least been rumored to have been, attached to this project over time. Liam Neeson, Benicio del Toro, Russell Crowe, and Will Smith, to name a few. The studio finally cast Bruce Willis in the end. To be honest, I'm surprised this movie didn't turn into a complete mess. With all that being said, this movie is a rental or a Netflix watch at best. If you're looking for something similar but really good, check out Marvel's The Punisher series on Netflix instead. As always, thank you so much for watching. What did you think of the remake of Death Wish? Feel free to comment on it down in the section below. Till next time, I'm Gino Reynolds from The Real Gino.